Documentary film is one of the most important forms of cinema that exists. Documentary filmmakers strive to capture what is real, whether it is people on the street, a political campaign, a true crime documentary, or a message about a social issue that needs attention. There are many different methods used when making a documentary film, and most films either fall into one or two broader categories: cinema verite and direct cinema. Both direct cinema and cinema verite capture truth in two different ways. However, there are many very similar techniques and equipment between these two different styles of film. Both direct cinema and cinema verite use lightweight filming equipment and handheld cameras for good movement, as well as live synchronous sound. This was groundbreaking for film at the time, as it gave filmmakers the ability to work without large crews, studio sets, and larger, more expensive equipment for their films. Although they have many things in common, cinema verite and direct cinema have many differences too. The term direct cinema applies to film that attempts to get rid of all barriers between the subject and the audience. This type of filmmaking wants to address the subject as directly as possible, with little to no interaction with what is being documented. Cinema verite, on the other hand, involves the filmmaker getting more involved with their subjects and including themselves in the film almost to ensure truthfulness from the subject. So direct cinema is very hands-off and observatory, while cinema verite is more participatory. A great example of direct cinema film is Primary, which is a 1960 film that covered the subject of the Democratic primary campaigns of Hubert H. Humphrey and John F. Kennedy. This was filmed with handheld cameras and recorded synchronized sound, and without narration and little to no interactions with the subjects of the film, they were addressing the candidates directly as possible in order to provoke full authenticity from them. Unlike cinema verite, that would have interactions with the subjects or at least a narrated voiceover, direct cinema does not have that, and these filmmakers had to mostly rely on their editing to do the narrating for them. In Frank Beaver's article on direct cinema, speaking about the editor of the film, D.A. Penbaker, he explains that the editor would be vital in creating the documentary's narrative voice. He goes on to explain that the way Penbaker chose and arranged the scenes truly showed how the edited film could present fascinating and intimate documentation of this historical campaign with no script or added audios. Cinema verite, on the other hand, would be almost the opposite of this. Rather, there would be some sort of audio narrating what is happening in the film, or the filmmakers would participate themselves in addressing the subject of their film face-to-face directly. One of the earliest and best representations of cinema verite is Jean Rouche's Chronicle of a Summer. This film's main goal was to create a portrait of everyday life in Paris. This film is a bunch of different types of footage edited together in an attempt to capture the true essence of 1960s Paris. The film begins with a voiceover that says, "This film was made without actors, but lived by men and women who devoted some of their time to a novel experiment of cinema verite." This voiceover alone separates itself from the direct cinema, as it is explaining that there aren't actors, but real everyday people that the filmmakers are going to directly address in almost an interview structure. These real-life individuals wanted to discuss topics on society as well as happiness in the working class of Paris during this time, and later these individuals would discuss the footage they were able to capture. There is a specific scene in this film where there are two young men, obviously from very different backgrounds, having a conversation. The younger boy is an African immigrant that is in Paris to go to school, and the other man is from Paris, is working class, and works in a factory. There is beauty in both cinema verite and direct cinema. In this case, the filmmakers had the ability to put two people together to have a conversation that they would most likely never have otherwise. The filmmakers participating in their films as they do in cinema verite can bring opportunities that would never happen naturally without their interference. Them getting involved and putting these two people together created a conversation full of differences of race, society, work, and many other things as well. While this interference is very efficient and helpful, films like Primary still have the ability to capture truth the way cinema verite cannot. Primary was filmed with little to no interaction from the film crew in order to capture the full truth of naturally occurring events. For example, there is one scene in Primary where a series of edited shots creates a scene that follows John F. Kennedy and his wife Jackie Kennedy while they are entering a Milwaukee rally, and the crowd serenades JFK with the song High Hopes, which was his campaign song. With no interaction from the filmmakers, they were able to capture a true and intimate moment of this campaign that could not be captured without this fly-on-the-wall approach. Both cinema verite and direct cinema have separate filmmaking techniques, but both of them do an efficient job at portraying the truth of the subject they are documenting. In the 1960s, these styles of documentary filmmaking were very new and groundbreaking, but the evolution of film and technology only opens the door for new styles and techniques of documentation. So, what truly is considered a documentary these days? We have a whole generation of people who have grown up around social media, and that is not always a bad thing. In the mid-1900s, when this type of cinema was on the rise, most of these films addressed real and important social, economic, and political issues that should have been heard across the world. However, in more modern times, it is substantially easier to pull out a phone or any portable recording device and capture what is right in front of you. Therefore, many things can be documentaries of current issues, whether it was the mid-20th century, capturing the streets of Paris, or political campaigns to spread awareness on certain issues, or teenagers and young adults all around the world posting real-time footage of protests or even war activities happening in their country with the ability to send it around the world in seconds. Although the lines have become a bit blurred of what true documentary filmmaking is, most, if not all types of documentation fall into the category of either direct cinema or cinema verite, both of which are efficient and groundbreaking ways of capturing truth in film.